Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.
Welcome to Tormenting Voice for Harry and Isaac. This is a Magic the Gathering podcast coming to you from Yorkshire in the UK.
In this podcast, we're going to talk about all things competitive Magic, discuss our approach to the game, and give our opinions on all aspects of it.
We're going to do metagame analysis, data-driven tier lists, and our own personal hot takes on all of the above.
We're going to do deep dives on specific formats, archetypes, and decks. We're going to try and improve our play alongside yours, and most importantly, we're trying to grow the community of the game that we love.
Alright, let's get into it.
Hello and welcome to a new episode of Tormenting Voice. Today's going to be a little bit different. So unlike what we had the last episode where we had a format and it was all organised, we weren't really planning on doing an episode this week, but because of the organised play changes and because we're all very enfranchised players, we thought it'd be of paramount importance to get this out to you guys as soon as we can. So we're not really having a structure this week. We're just sort of going to be free flowing. We're going to be giving our opinions, which is a little bit dangerous, but we'll see how it goes. So first things first, as always, I'm Isaac. I'm one of your regular co-hosts, and I'm with Harry.
Yo guys, just throwing everything out of the window as standard. This is how it goes around here, so get used to it.
And we're joined by Tom.
I'm Tom. I play Magic with these guys fairly regularly.
Yeah, Tom's been on before, as has Ryan.
Yep, I'm here as well.
Yeah, so we've got our opinionated cast here to sort of get going on these organised play changes. So first things first, I thought it'd be a good idea to sort of give everyone's history of organised play, how we've interacted with it in the past, how they changed from the old system to this, well, now they're not, from the old system to now the old system, how that affected our interaction with it. So Harry, mate, do you want to lead off? Like, how have you interacted with organised play in the past?
So I started with F&M, just casually sort of getting into the game, and then I kind of built up to the last ever PPTQ, I think, in Leeds, and then I was like, I didn't really know what was going on, to be honest, and I still don't really know what's going on with organised play. I've been to one GP, and it was okay, but I honestly thought it was a bit of a clusterfuck. And then, since then, I've been playing organised on Arena when I've got into MCQs, but that's it.
Yeah. Tom?
So, yeah, I started playing a long time ago, sort of Onslaught, and then stopped at Time Spiral, but I didn't really do any organised play then, so I don't know anything about the system that long ago. I did, like, pre-releases and stuff like that, but then after getting back into things around sort of the back end of Dragons of Takia, sort of worked my way up FNMs and then started grinding PPTQs fairly heavily. So I'd go to one a week, I think, at the peak mostly. Maybe not 1 week, maybe two another week, depending what was on and what was around. And then after GP Manchester, which was Shadows, I think, we started really sort of heavily grinding GPs. So we'd go to every GP in the UK, and then we'd frequently fly away on weekends to go to GPs all across Europe.
Yeah, good stuff. Ryan, I think you've sort of got similar.
Yeah, I was wondering who'd get to go first.
Yeah, well, to be honest, like me and Tom's like similar in that sense, but I started in 2016, just after Shadows of Innistrad released. Yeah, and I was playing for like 5 weeks, and then went to GP Manchester. So I was playing in the main event, so it was a bit of a baptism of fire for me. But it was good because learned quite a bit and stuff, and obviously got to enjoy the camaraderie and stuff, and to actually experience it in full. So it was a really good experience. But yeah, just then obviously started going to obviously FNMs more regularly, and then obviously build up confidence playing with the game, and then doing the rules, learning the rules and stuff. And then just like with Tom, obviously then just started going to PPTQs because me and Tom live quite close by, so usually it would be me and Tom going, with car share and stuff. So going to at least one PPTQ weekend or sometimes two, and they'd be like up and down the region and stuff. And then obviously after the GP Manchester, so then we started going to all the GPs in the UK, and then flying away obviously to European GPs. Yeah, it's been like a really good experience and stuff, and highly recommend GPs.
We've made PTQs a couple of times as well, haven't we? Have I made one? You made two? Have you been to three?
I've made, well, this is a thing. So I've won two. I've won a constructed standard and a limited one. And then I won,
PBTQ. This is not PTQs.
yeah, PPTQ, yeah. And then I won the Europe. Then I won a European Championship qualifier, which was the modern, like the one that they did for just for Europe, which was essentially a PPTQ but for modern. But like
Yeah, the modern Super Series or whatever it was when it existed.
Yeah. But for like
2.5 weeks.
one tournament, something, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that sort of illustrates the issue we're all having with it. So I started playing in Cairns, as you all know, slightly before M14, but Cairns when I started getting into organised play to a higher level. So I went to my first GP in Liverpool, which is a sealed GP for Fate Reforged. I played in a couple of PPTQs, top 4'd rather, a PPTQ, a modern one with blue-white control, so somehow managed that, absolute miracle, because blue-white control's terrible, as we all know. But yeah, I think from when I started playing to now, I think that era has been where organised play is in the most state of flux, so I think I have a fairly decent perspective on it, because when I first started interacting with the game, there were PTQs, so I've been to a PTQ before where there's 150 people at RLGS in Bradford and they have to use the downstairs rooms and all this other stuff. And it's carnage and there's loads of people there and there's a big buzz and big excitement because people from Leeds have come, people from Sheffield have come, people from all over the country have come to play in this event. And then we sort of saw a shift to PPTQs, which was similar but a little bit worse because for the whole of the country there'd be one regional Pro Tour qualifier for the whole of the UK, and the UK is quite a big Magic scene, which is ridiculous because in the States they've got 20, 30, 40, 50 a season. So I will cover some of the regionality stuff when we get into this announcement because I am very passionate about this because obviously we're all Northern English Magic players, and this announcement sort of leaves us in a questionable position in the structure. But yeah, for me personally, I've played in one PTQ, played in a couple of PPTQs, done well in one, just came second and missed out on the RPTQ. Played in a couple of GP main events, but what I will say is, and this is sort of why I wanted to give the context, is since the change to the MPL structure and its modern Super League limited tic-tac-toe tournament and whatever, like I've not really interacted with organised play. I haven't played in much arena to try and get to Mythic to play one of the arena organised events. Like the structure of how you turn this and go to a Pro Tour and turn it into something that's not just a hobby but something you could not be embarrassed to put on a CV. Do you know what I mean? Like to say you've done something at the top level, the path to get to that's been very confusing. And ultimately, I think a lot of Magic players, especially the spikier Magic players amongst us like ourselves, the ones that'll spend an hour and a half talking about Magic in their free time, we've sort of been a little bit alienated to the system and a bit disconnected. So I think that's why it's probably best to sort of start off with a context because we're going to build off of this. Because obviously this system that's sort of alienated all has been scrapped, so there's a lot of mixed feelings at the moment. So Tom, I don't know, can you give a brief synopsis of what happened, the change that the article sort of laid out, the big controversial article that set Twitter on fire?
Obviously, yeah. So they've basically announced the scrapping the MPL and the Rivals League, aren't they? Going forward. So basically, although a lot of people took it to mean lots more different things and sort of added, injected their own, projected their own meanings onto it, it is literally they're no longer going to be paying professional Magic players. Wizards are no longer going to be providing salaries for professional Magic players. Is the very condensed version. What was the direct quote? They're no longer going to facilitate the lifestyle or something like that.
I've got this exact quote written down.
There we go. Sorry.
So the thing that's interesting is the announcement itself, like Tom said, is just the announcement that we're not going to be paying appearance fees. But the MPL players had been told in the back that we're not going to be supporting professional Magic, and they meant in a literal sense, like people with Magic as their profession showing up, we're not going to support that anymore. So what was actually said by Blake later on as a clarification, because the way that the messaging was handled, because a lot of the pros who had lost their jobs were controlling the narrative, and I understand why they'd be upset. That's completely rational. A lot of things are misconstrued. So the actual quote was, "We're no longer going to subsidise the lifestyles of the top 200 players." So Wizards are just going to pay to have these people exist and come to Magic tournaments, which, I can understand why those people are upset, but at the same time, it's a rational decision. The MPL wasn't paying for itself. It was a massive money pit, and it wasn't getting the same views as even Star City was doing their own circuit where they were not paying anyone. Like, ultimately playing Magic is, I think someone should be able to turn it into a living, but it is it's a the game is the reward in itself. I know it sounds really stupid, and like I'm a corporate shill, but this game is so fun that you should want to play it. And if someone has to pay you to appear and play this game, and you have to play 3 rounds, then I'm sort of questioning why you're doing it. Do you know what I mean? There's plenty of other things. If you're trying to get a profession, these pro players are very smart people. There are other things they could do if it was pure profession. So they all must enjoy it to some extent. Do you know what I mean?
Worth noting as well, this announcement was very far in advance. So I don't want it to come across as they've suddenly announced that, it's not like they've just told them what to clear out the metaphorical desks, is it? Like, on the day, there's a plan in place to end the MPL and the Rivals League and that aspect of competitive play.
Yeah, and I think...
But
Go on, Harry.
Wizards haven't just sacked 200 people without any notice. They've given them
Yeah.
like I'm completely fresh into this, so I don't know anything about it really. But just for people who are in the same boat, they haven't. Like, what is the plan? Are they gonna like phase it out, or are they just sort of cutting it out after a certain amount of time?
So I think is this season carrying on as normal, and
Yeah.
then next season, instead of what you'd usually be qualifying to make MPL or to make Rivals or to get basically relegated out or whatever, instead you're qualifying for Worlds. So it's going to transfer onto the Worlds qualification, and there's going to be one big last tournament with a big prize pot. So so there's still a reason, there's still an incentive to try and get the placements you were going to get. But then after that, it's done. So it's like 2 seasons in advance notice.
And they are still, just to clarify as well, like, they are still going to pay MPL wages for the next year. So if someone was trying to qualify from Rivals to the MPL to get that pay increase, and they do it, they're still going to get paid out for that. I think personally, I think they have done right by people. The negative sort of connotation is it's the lack of, like, all we know is there will be professional Magic tournaments, there will be a big one, whatever that means, and there will be larger prize pools. But the way that they define that's very, it's all forgazing it. Like if they can put whatever number on it and call it a huge prize pool, and everyone's sort of But
yeah, this is one of the big issues, really, is that they've announced this and there's no details on what's happening afterwards. But it's kind of a no-win situation, because your 2 options are either you make plans to dismantle the MPL and replace it with something without telling anyone, and you're making those plans in secret, and then that gets out, and then there's this big scandal that, Wizards are planning to destroy the livelihoods of all these people. Or you make the choice that they have made, which is this one, which is it's coming to an end, but you don't know what you're doing next. But you let the people know it's coming to an end, obviously, because they need to know not to quit the jobs, not to find jobs or whatever. So it's a bit of a,
catch-22.
bit of an impossible situation for them, really.
That seems like the best course of action, though, right? Like in terms of Wizards handling it, like they've got. Did you say it's 200 players that they're paying currently?
It's 32. It's the 64. It's the MPL plus Rivals that they're paying. But I think
It's 64.
Yes, but the 200 number comes from the old system where they were subsidised. Like, they would pay appearance fees for all the Hall of Fame members, all the Platinum members, all the Gold members. So what they're saying is, in the article, it's all very vague, but they're saying we're going to go back towards the old system in the ways events are structured, but the way that we will pay people for Magic will be structured in a different way. So the top 200 players won't just get appearance fees for existing. They'll have to sort of validate themselves, if that makes sense.
Yeah, thank God for that.
Yeah, I know that sounds really strange because it was very normal in Magic, but I think, when I spoke to you about it initially, you were like, it makes total sense. Why would they pay these people?
I mean, it's fucking ridiculous that you've got seeding. Like, I'm sorry, but it's outrageous. Like, I don't know how you can make a competitive landscape with the top 64 players being
Excluded
out,
basically.
It's ridiculous. Like, I don't, and this is coming from someone who, like, I play these guys on not on a day-to-day basis, but I play them. Do you know what I mean? And like, I'm not getting paid for shit. So, what's that about?
Yeah, I think.
I mean, old system, not old. We need names for all the systems. The systems we played under at GPs, which was Platinum, Gold, tiered pro system. You got some leg up, didn't you? Like, obviously, we got appearance fees at Platinum, and you got hotel and flights at Platinum as well. But all it was basically was buys for those systems at a GP. So if you're a Platinum tier pro, you got 3 buys. You didn't have to play your first 3 rounds. So you have to kick the wire with my webcam.
I dislike less.
Gold, you get 2, but then there were loads of other ways to get 2, weren't there? So Planeswalker points, which you got for playing events, all events. And me and Ryan would always have ground enough to get 2 buys. Like we would very early on, first couple of GPs, we played all the rounds, didn't we? But soon, when we were going all over Europe for them, we were sleeping players, weren't we? You know, everyone else was starting at 10, we were starting at 1. Like, so, yeah, that it wasn't as bad. But then I think this was an experiment, wasn't it? Really, the MPL and the Rivals League. It very much did feel locked. I mean, obviously the pandemic hasn't helped, but it was very much if we pay these. I don't know. It's weird because right before it all started, there was a massive clamour for it to start, wasn't there?
Yeah, and
There were loads of people up in arms, like,
thing.
"Oh, you need to pay people. Or people play this game and X game and Y game, and you get this much." And yeah, there were all these stories of touring Magic Pros having to live like hobos.
Yeah, and the cars and stuff, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Sleeping in the cars and stuff because can't afford like a hotel. Oh, we've lost Harry.
Oh, he's back. I think he's back. But yeah, I think it just sort of we'll wait for him to come back. But I think with regards to here he is, we won't even need to cut that. That's perfect. He's right back. I think I have spoken to you before, Ryan, about this MPL system. And I know like just sort of in general. I think before, so we don't get stuck in the wood and start going into a cycle, start going into full opinions and everything. But I sort of wanted to gauge Ryan's opinion in particular, and we'll go on everyone else if they've got anything else to add about. So first things first, was the MPL a good idea? How it was executed, and are we happy it's gone, and why, basically?
Well, it was certainly something different, and I think it were. I kind of liked the experiment with it, and as Tom mentioned, obviously, like it gave people like an actual stable wage, and actually gives them an actual actually something to make a living off, like an actual one that they can actually count on, like it's solid, so they can actually so they don't so it actually gives them something to work for in life and stuff, and actually, but the way it was executed, I think like with the Rona, it's kind of shown like a weakness in it, because I know that I personally didn't like keep up to date with it and stuff, and like I didn't really log on to that Wizards website that much of stuff. But I did use Arena a lot, but it would never, like, it's only recently that it's always been advertised when it was on, like, because the only time I knew when the MPL or the Rivals like League was on was afterwards on Monday, when like Goldfish or anyone when they were doing actually the doing the reviews of it and stuff, and actually what's the fallout from it. So it was just a thing of like they never marketed it and never put the support behind it, and literally it would kind of like, I think we've discussed about it before, where they had one of the best tools to do this and to actually trying to get the cross platform with the players, where on Arena, like obviously you've got the Arena and all that marketing there and all the players playing it, and like literally just put up like an advert on like the home screen that like stays there for the majority of the time. And because obviously it's just for the weekend, so you can just have that as just the sole thing,
or embed it.
Just, like, how it,
embed like...
yeah. And the weeks like leading up to it, just have like as like one of the like the main adverts that come through it, like saying, "Oh, the MPL or the Rivals League is coming up," like click this link and like tune in to watch it and stuff. And then when it happened, like have that as like embedded there as like the only advert and stuff for that weekend and stuff. So then it guaranteed interest, but also it just showed people that it was on. So overall, like I think it's a good thing, because it gives some stability for the pro players, but on the flip side, obviously trying to get into, if you're an up and coming, like trying to get to like that rank, it is hard to get to it, because underneath, because it's MPL and Rivals, but underneath there is that there's nothing really, and like trying to break into the Rivals can be a bit hard and stuff. And if you've not, because it's kind of one of those things where you need to get into it and then you solidify your place there, because then you go in with the other pros, like you go in with testing teams and stuff, and so then it's kind of like one of the things where it just generates itself, where if you're in the crowd, then you're more into the you're in. And then, but obviously you still got to then keep on top of that and work it, which is fair, which you have to earn your place and stuff, and keep working out to earn it. So obviously there's pros and cons obviously to everything, but overall I think it was good, but I'm not too bothered about it going, because well, again, as I said, I hardly ever knew it was on. So I hardly knew about its existence really. Like I knew it existed, but like I hardly ever knew about about the coverage and stuff. I know obviously recently, obviously it's been hit with with the bannings and stuff, wasn't it? Because I do remember watching the top 8 for, I forgot which one it was, but basically it was all on NAF, and it was like Well, sorry, it was top 4 actually, because there were like one or two decks that were on NAF, but basically the top 4 ended up being on NAF, and it was just on NAF mirrors, and it was like, all right, well. It kind of reminded me of when Mardu vehicles came out, and that best. I think all the top 8 were Mardu vehicles, and I'm like, all right, but like it wasn't as bad as that. But yeah,
I think
yeah, go on.
I think in general I do agree with your sentiment. Like, so there were a lot of they didn't help themselves, right? So
Yeah.
it's a cool idea. I think personally, I think the idea was doomed to fail. I think ultimately, Magic is not an esport like League of Legends, where you have these like franchises that are like a separate system, and there's no way to jump into it unless you get a contract. Like, that's not how Magic is. Like, Magic is not a spectator sport. Like, there's people that watched Pro Tours and watched SCG Tours were people that were playing the game actively. Like, this is the thing with Magic, it's the best game, right? It's not the best spectacle. So, people that are watching Paper Magic... Go on, sorry.
And even Wizards said that because they're not going to bring a spectator mode to Arena.
Yeah,
So.
Exactly. So it's like, I get the idea, and I like it, and if you want to support personalities to come to your tournaments, that all makes sense, right? Because it's a marketing expense. But ultimately, when you're forcing your MPL players to stream X number of hours a week or whatever it was, and they aren't wanting to do that, like, why not ask them what they'd like to do? So someone like Efro said publicly, I don't want to stream, but I have to, otherwise I don't get this contract. But he's a very good commentator, he's a very good podcast host, he's a very good nuts and bolts person. So why not ask him what he'd like to produce for you, and then give him a price on that? Do you know what I mean? Like, it sort of treated everything as a monolith, including like your casual player base. So whilst it's nice to support your top 64 players, you're also completely like cleaving off the millions and millions and millions of people underneath, like us, who go, I can't get to the MPL without 5 years of grinding. I had to sacrifice so much to get there to be able to have it as a stable career. So there's no point being connected to it, being engaged with it, which is why ultimately I think the numbers were terrible compared to Pro Tours, because with a Pro Tour you go, oh wow, my mate's at that Pro Tour, I vaguely know him from playing his modern tournament in Leeds, and he's 3-0 at the moment. That's really cool. I remember the first time Autumn, for example, when they started doing really well in the Pro Tour, and it were like, oh, day one, it's Autumn person's undefeated, isn't that great? They're from the UK, like, that's phenomenal. And it's like, oh, that person's from the UK. It's like, I think I remember them, like, playing this XYZ. I think Tom told me about playing them. Like, things like that are so cool for us to watch, and it's engaging, and it's, because it's like, this isn't a million miles removed from me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. With Autumn specifically, I've played against Autumn 2 or 3 times, so not that regularly. But yeah, it's sort of the interest of, I don't know, you sort of feel involved, don't you? You feel sort of connected to it, because obviously in the MPL, this really good person sat across from Autumn. I've sat across from Autumn, and that we're always in GPs and stuff like that. So yeah,
Man, when you have those matches against people, like, regardless of whether they're online or if they're in person, like, when I've played Reed Duke and it's been on his stream and that, like, it's felt like a bigger occasion for me than it was previously. But, like, my issue with this is, like, it's a 1% system. Like, why are we advocating for that? We got 64 players at the top getting paid. I don't really give a shit how good they are, because they get to spend their time playing, whereas the rest of us don't get to spend our time playing because we're not getting paid. So to make this a properly competitive market, like, it either has to be one or the other. You don't get to just sit there with the cream at the top going, oh yeah, it's self-fulfilling prophecy. Of course they're going to beat everybody else because they get to do that, and they get to play.
I used to have to say this to people I worked with when I told them what I was going away to do at the weekend, and they'd be like, "Oh, do you do really well?" I'm like, oh, "I do all right, but there's a lot of people who beat me." I'm like, "How come?" I'm like, "Well, because I've got a job." Like, and there's people that don't. Like, they just they do this all day.
There is some of that. I do think right, for example, it doesn't matter how much you pay Paolo or pay me. You could pay me £1 million a year. I'm not going to beat Paolo. Do you know what I mean? But
I don't know about that, bro.
yeah, but
You don't know
mate,
about that.
so to some extent, I agree with you. But there are some people that are genuinely good at this game, and part of Magic is anyone can beat anyone on any given day, and that's why the game is so fun, right? But
Absolutely.
and I like it makes sense to me, the system of this person brings us value for them to come to our tournament, so we'll incentivize them to come to our tournament, right? So if you want to give an appearance fee to your Paolos and your LSVs and that all makes sense, right? Because that ultimately, right, those people have put so much time into the game that it is merit based for them to be paid some amount. However, with the MPL and Rivals, with no transparent way to get there and understand how you get there and solidify yourself in that, and because it's not in flux constantly, the same people have been there for 3 years because they won a Pro Tour in 2017, we just go, right, well, this is obviously nonsense. Do you know what I mean? If it was what I said, where it's like there are a handful of players that get paid to show up because it's a marketing expense, like you'd pay your artists or your cosplayers or this, that, and the other, that's good. Like, let's do that. Like,
Yeah, if it was just sort of the same for everyone, whether or not you were a top tier pro or you were, like the prof from community college or
Crokies.
Pleasant Kenobi or Crokies or just whatever, you were just paying people, like you said, as a marketing expense because them being there were going to boost the numbers or entice people in. Or you paid them because they got an appearance fee because they're going to stream about it and they're going to make posts about it, which is going to generate interest in it. Yeah. I mean, overall, I think it was a good enough idea. I just think it was really poorly executed. And there's all sorts of factors that feed into that. Like the idea is it was to generate hype. So you'd have these good players always play each other. But then first issue you ran into is there can't be too much churn or there can't be too much scope because they're paying them so much. That's why it's so few. You can't have, if you had it easier, you only have to make it 10% easier to get in. And all of a sudden you're paying another 100,000 people the 60,000, so if it was accessible, they'd be bankrupt basically. So that's weird. It, like you said, they didn't promote it enough. I don't think I've ever watched any MPL content besides a video here or there on YouTube, sort of as like catch up, nothing live. And then, so we sort of didn't push it that way.
I catch it on Twitch sometimes. The commentary is terrible. The way that it looks on screen is fucking dire. Yeah, the whole not embedding it on Arena is pure laziness. Like, there's no excuse. Like, there is no excuse. This company is massive. It's massive, and they've got a platform right in front of them where, like, I don't know the exact numbers, but a lot of people play it every single day. And if they wanted the traffic, they could have got it.
Yeah.
But they didn't.
And I think the best so the SCG Tour, right, is a perfect example of this, right? So that is a company in Virginia, right? And I'm from the UK, so I'm pretty ignorant to this. But Virginia is not like a New York or a LA, is it? Like, it's Virginia. They're a big company, but they're a Magic store out of Virginia that went, we're going to do our own tournament series. We'll get Cedric in, and everyone would watch that every week. It peaked at like 25,000 viewers, and it was doing that consistently every week. Like, and it's these people, they're not getting paid appearance fees. The prize pool's okay, but it's nothing in comparison to the Pro Tour. But it was just organised, it was understandable, and week by week, you'd see the same people over and over and over again, and you sort of built up a narrative, right? So when Cedric tweeted out, like, I really liked his tweet, to be honest, where he said, ultimately, you had the best possible personalities, the best, highest level of play, and a massive amount of money to throw at this, and you failed. He's like, he said, I made people care about, what were his name? It just, like, his named like some random day. I think it was like, what's the guy's name? The Greek Stalva guy, someone Jones. Kevin Jones. I made everyone care about Kevin Jones, and it's like, it wasn't being rude to Kevin Jones, but it's like, this guy, who is not even thought about now, was drawing that many people in because the structure and the way that it was accessible to anyone could show up to an SAG event and try and qualify for the Invitational and the Players Championship, etc., etc. Because it was like, if I go here and do this, I can be on screen doing this, that, and the other. People were engaged with it, and it would get, like, we would all watch it. George would watch every minute of it every week. He'd watch all 14 hours of coverage or whatever it was. Everyone would be engaged with it and would be like, did you just see this on the stream? And George was like, yeah, I'm watching it. I just said that. That's what an amazing play. But with this, like me and Harry covered the Arnie win recently, and that's probably the most compelling storyline that's been during the MPL. And the only reason we thought to cover that is because everyone else was talking about it. We didn't watch it live. Like, why would we? So I think that's sort of a good point to leave that at. Like, I don't want to keep banging about how crap the old system was. But I think, going off the reaction to it is something that we should probably have a look at. So I've seen a couple of takes regarding this. I've got them on my phone, that's why I'm looking down here. I've seen people say that Wizards are bad at building stars and building household names. Anyone got any opinions on that sort of sentiment? I think, just sort of give my brief synopsis, I think it's kind of true. Like, I think what Cedric said about it was true, but at the same time, I think putting all the onus on Wizards to build stars is a bit backwards.
Yeah, the problem is, this is going to sound more negative than I want to say, is in broad strokes, Wizards currently are bad at everything. Because, and I don't just mean like, because they're bad, but there's sort of no focus. It's become this strange creature with all these heads pulling in different directions. Like, they were big on, like, Arena's been really successful. It's doing really well. We're going to make Magic an esport. MPL, it's going to be this, it's going to be that. There's going to be these events. We're going to invite, people in other games and stuff and really hype it up. But then it's like, it pulls off in the other direction. It's like, oh no, we're going to make £1 billion selling collector's boosters. And then it's like, yeah, but I thought we were going to be an esport. And then you're getting pulled down because it's like, oh no, it turns out secret layers just print money. And I don't know. It's like they set out to make it this big popular esport. And then other things feed into this. Like one of the reasons the MPL might have done bad and we've not got these stars and people aren't interested in watching is because the format's bad at the moment, because it's like, fire design, we're going to make it really fun to open packs, and we're going to design everything for Commander and Modern and Legacy and Standard, and it's like, yeah, it's just like I said, things pulling in different directions. Like fire design and booster fun and all that flies directly in the face of making it an esport and making it successful as a competitive game. Because like you said, with Omnath and stuff like that, Omnath were printed for Commander, so like this choice to, we want to sell more Zendikar Rising boosters to Commander players has meant that one of your big MPL events has just fallen flat on its arse. And like, the reason that no one was interested in watching Modern coverage was because you printed Hogak. It's like, yeah, just stop.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I think in general, so there are some complaints about the system that are completely valid, like the 2.1 million that went missing to COVID and the messaging about COVID in the article where it's like, we're going back to the gathering, blah de blah, like sort of throwing everything on that as putting it to blame whilst they're also making record profits. Like, I hear some of that, but to be dismissive and say they didn't try to build stars, it's like there are some things like Harry said where it was laziness, but at the same time, I'm not going to name names, but there are some people in the MPL who are not very exciting personalities. They're very talented Magic players, but I wouldn't want to have a drink with them. Do you know what I mean? Alternatively, I can think of a lot of Magic players I would like to have a drink with. Do you know what I mean? I know lots of Magic players that I have had drinks with and it's been carnage. But it's like, these people that you're paying to stream, you're not getting the value from there. So it's not Wizards' job to give them a career. Do you know what I mean? And I get that it's been promised to them, and it's sort of been taken away to some extent with the money and the structure. But if it's like any industry, right? I don't want to sound like I'm ultra capitalist, do everything on your own, libertarian idiot, right? Because if anyone knows me, that's far from the truth. But it's like, if you want to build a career in esports or in streaming, you have to carve that out for yourself. No one's going to hand that to you. Do you know what I mean?
It's up to Wizards to make it possible rather than to do it directly. If they had a really good game that were really fun to watch, and this ties into everything, this ties into the cards, bannings, formats, no spectator mode, and arena, stuff like that. Probably if they create the environment, then this is how it works with other esports, isn't it? Other franchises, other groups, other teams come in, and they are the ones who pay because the popularity of the game's there. You can start a team with competitive Magic players on, and you can make enough money to pay them their wage because of the exposure you're getting. Like, yeah, but there was this big. I do feel a bit sorry for Wizards because there was this big outcry right before the MPL of like, LSV's living under a bush. You need to start, start playing your Magic Pros like a living wage. That were a big thing for a while, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I think they've hit the reset button to some extent. So, we'll talk about what's coming in the future, but so the other esport I'm engaged with is Call of Duty, right? Which is, not something everyone's familiar with. But Call of Duty is now a franchise esport where big investment capital firms are putting 35 million in to buy a franchise slot just so they can field a team, right? The MPL is sort of like that, where it's like it's a franchise, like this player is in the MPL now, and it's really hard for them to get moved out, if not impossible. But Call of Duty, the reason it got to that point is the word personality is like, I could say the word nade shot, right? And for someone mine or Harry's age, that you know that name, do you know what I mean? And nade shot was a streamer first and foremost who turned to a competitive player, and it's like he single-handedly carried that esport forwards to the point where they can have 35 million buy-in leagues, and now he owns a team. Do you know what I mean? And it's like hitting Magic's a phenomenal game, but it's not Call of Duty. It's not a spectator thing. It's not. Do you know what I mean? It's not very easily accessible. But the fact that we've hit the reset button where we can have now, where if Croaky's turned up to a GP, he can play PV if he's doing well. That would be mental. Imagine seeing Croaky's on coverage playing PV in like a final of a GP or something. Like that would have that'd have 100,000 concurrent viewers potentially if it's the right format and do you know what I mean? So we've hit the reset button to some extent, but I'm kind of happy about that because now the people that have built their own star up outside of Wizards, like Croaky's, who I do bang on about because he's one of us lot. Do you know what I mean? He is a bloke that we could all know. He's one of us. He represents British Magic. Being a bit of a knobhead, like, do you know what I mean? We can relate to him, right? We can relate to people.
He deserves it as well. He's committed, and you know,
same with people in the MPL like Autumn. We can relate to Autumn because we've played in the same tournaments as Autumn. We've played in the same tournaments as people like Rob Khan who've been at the Pro Tour before. Like
that goes for every region, though, right? Like, regardless of where you're playing, if you're playing in Italy, you've probably mates with Mengu, or you've played him.
Mm-hmm.
You know. Like, I'm not saying that everybody in Italy is friends with Mengu. I'm just saying that, like, you know, you might have a story about that or whatever, like you guys do with Autumn. The thing that I want to point out is that, like, you keep saying that Magic's not a spectator sport, and I just don't believe that's true. I think that the format and the infrastructure that Wizards have put in place has made it that way. I don't think the game is fundamentally that way.
It's weird. It's not. I think you're saying it's not a spectator sport in the same way as Call of Duty because anyone who doesn't know anything about Call of Duty can sit down. It doesn't matter how good of a Call of Duty that game is in comparison to other Call of Duty games, and it's like, oh look at this man run around and shoot guns and like did a stick slide and threw a grenade at someone. Whereas Magic, what you're getting at is if the game's good, people will get into it.
Right, okay.
To make it spectator, they focus on like, oh, we need this big flashy splash
fireworks at tournaments,
because that's not going to get people into it. A way to get people who aren't into Magic into watching it is if they start to understand how it works.
Correct.
You know, it'd be like someone who doesn't play chess enjoying watching chess because they understand what's going on. They're like, oh, that's amazing. Oh, he's done this. Do you see how he's done that? But that's not what they focused on. It'd be like if they were doing chess, just like, you know, throwing a bunch of petrol on the chessboard and flicking a match in before they start playing. Like, oh, I did better to watch now.
I'd watch that.
The thing that gets me about this is that League of Legends is by far the biggest esport. It's not really even close. Like second to CS is second, like a close second. I say close. It's not really a close second. It's second. League of Legends, if you watch it and you've never played it, you don't know what the fuck's going on at all. But it's the biggest esport on the planet, and it's the biggest game on the planet by a decent margin. And they've done that by cultivating the fans and the infrastructure around it, right? And Magic could do the same thing. Hasbro has the same kind of clout, if not more clout, than what Riot had.
Yeah, when it started.
Like a couple of years ago, right? And the trajectory that League has been on shows that it's possible that even though a layman doesn't understand what's going on, the pro scene can be massive. And it frustrates me because it's like Magic is great, and it's not like flashy and sexy or whatever really, unless you know what's going on and you know the interactions. But that's part of its charm. Once you learn the ins and outs, and you learn what's a good player and what's not a good player, or where you think your opinion lies on a said player, that's when it becomes fun to watch. And I don't know, since I've been playing, like, the most fun I've had watching is other people streaming, like just one streamer, and that's a shame considering there's been quite a lot of like online events.
I think we saw some of that with Arnie. Like there were specific plays Arnie made where he'd like do something to get priority to do something else. Where it's like I'm not even thinking on that level. Like I can think of several times when I first started playing Magic where I learned something and I'm like, I'm gonna play this game until I'm dead. I just know it because it's like I might not be fully engaged, but I learned something where it's like, oh yeah, do you see this guy? He had this burn spell for his creature, but instead he went face because he realized if he top decks another burn spell, he just wins. Like I don't know if you've ever seen the clip of like, oh, it's lightning helix. Yeah, when I saw him char the face and then lightning helix initially, I'm like, oh, some guy's going crazy. That's really funny that. And then I watched someone 5 minutes explain why this was such a dope play, and I'm like. Wait, so
even the commentators were like, they were split, weren't they? Like, it's like, oh no, he goes for the creature. The other one's like, no, you go face. You go face and you hope for the top deck.
And then
you hope.
When I saw that explained to me, I was like, oh no, I'm going to be financially ruined by these little cardboard squares for the rest of my adult life. And I'm like, and you know what? I'm not even mad at it because this game is just beautiful. And ultimately, like that clip was in a sweaty convention hall in the year 2003 or whatever. But that's enough to hook me in, and I'm the person you're going for. Do you know what I mean?
I think we're all in agreement, and that's the problem, is that's what makes it good. But then again, that's not been the focus. They've got this idea of, oh, it's got to be flashy, it's got to be overly exciting. Oh, if someone plays a boring card, everyone will stop watching. But it's not about that. This is me climbing up onto my soapbox of they have to invest in the game and maintain sort of the structure of the game and build everything off that. Which obviously isn't the current direction of the company, at least in my opinion.
I agree with you though, man. Like it starts with the card design. Like it does. It has to. Those levels. You can go as finite as you want about it, but like the implications that come from all levels of Magic are huge, and it does trickle. Well, it does go up all the way to the competitive play, and they have to address that. Like, since I've started playing, like, there's never been a tournament that's really been worth its time. Apart from the MCQs, and they're not as often as they should be.
Yeah,
so.
I didn't even know what they were until you played in one. Which is horrendous. Go on, Ryan.
No, it's just like a touch on like earlier what you said. Like it's like Wizards have to facilitate the opportunity, and like, but then it's on you to like, for streaming and stuff. You can't just sit there like a potato with Google Eyes. It'd be like, with no personality and stuff. You actually be, and like, but on the other side, like I know that obviously you're not particularly fond of him, but you've got like a potato with Google Eyes, and you've got like Saffron Olive, who's like, a bit upbeat, and actually, he's got a bit of a bubbly personality. But like, what if you sit watching like Saffron Olive, like, and you come to like your 8th mirror match with Omnath, you like, even someone as upbeat as Saffron Olive, you're just gonna be like, it's Omnath again. It's like, I wonder how this is gonna turn out. Like,
it's like the difference between watching this from before, the stream on Channel Fireball of like a top tier pro, or going and watching Jim Davis stream. Like Jim Davis is a radio presenter, he's an entertainer, so it doesn't matter that he's not as good as this other person, or he's not as ranked as highly as this other person. It's entertainment factor, like you said.
You can do both though as well. Like look at Ronnie O'Sullivan, look at Alex Higgins, like these players that top of the game, and it applies to this kind of stuff. Like people, I don't know, Magic's super nerdy and it'll always attract nerds, and I love that. But you can also not be completely devoid of character and have a decent, like, sort of outlook on life and personality and everything like that. So, I don't know.
Oh yeah, no, I understand with that, but the other thing with Magic is that with especially with like standard, like, and to the other formats as well, it does change obviously when they print new cards and stuff. Whereas like as you said, we're running something like with snooker and like that, and even to like Call of Duty, like the fundamental thing does stay the same. And so then you can develop with that. But with Magic and stuff, it is constantly changing. So even though the rule, and sometimes the rules do change with it, but fundamentally, like the cards do change and stuff, and but there are still similar players and stuff, but like you've got to like you've got to like readdress and like readdress yourself like in terms of what you're playing and stuff, and so there is that aspect to
Sure.
it where it is constantly changing, but again, the fundamental things do change, do stay the same. But again, it's you got to adapt and stuff, haven't you? Whereas like, and sometimes that can be, it doesn't leave. Sometimes for some people, it doesn't leave room to like not develop a personality, but you know what I mean, like come out the shell a bit.
Yeah. I think so the changes is actually a strength. So for me, the reason that I like Call of Duty
Yeah.
is if the game changes every year, right? So it's not like League where there's slight meta tweaks. It's like on this game, this player is insane. Will it transfer over here? So like if this game's all about really aggressive play, sliding, breaking cameras, movement, but this next game's the movement's not as fast. It's more about long angles, waiting, being patient. How does that translate over, and where can they carve out a niche? And it's sort of like standard formats, right? There are some formats where it's all about aggression and creature matchups and trading one for one, and there's some formats where it's all about crafting the game out in your hand and navigating to the point where you can sneak in your win condition. So like that kind of narrative is a strength, like what Harry said, where it's like League of Legends has a big viewer base and everyone that's watching it has played it. If you haven't played League of Legends, you're probably not watching it. And with Arena, you have the same scope, you have a free-to-play game. So, I think I totally agree with a lot of the sentiment here. The about the star building, etc., and it is a spectacle. What I will say is a lot of the points that I'm bringing up now are things that were said after the announcement and after the live stream. I think the sort of narrative started to change a bit. One thing that I did hear that even after that article I wasn't happy with at all, and this is like something that someone said. I won't name names because it's something I heard on a podcast, and they're not here to defend themselves, but I think this take is just horrendous, and I want to see if you guys kind of agree with it. So, what someone said is, I don't care about Wizards' profits at all. I'm going to argue for my position as a professional Magic player. Anyone wanna share some thoughts on that? Because I've got plenty of thoughts about that, and I understand the sentiment, and I understand it's from a place of passion. But I think at any point, if you're saying that as someone that is a fan of this game, you've gone off the deep end here.
The point entirely, because at the end of the day, it is a business, and you've got to respect that, because this is like, it's not like it's football or anything where it's like it's one thing is owned by it, like Wizards do own, like Wizards of the Coast do own Magic, and it is just from this one company, and they make the game, and it has to make money in order to survive and keep going. Like because Hasbro is not going to prop it up if it's if it's making losses like every year on year, like it's just going to ship it off. It's just going to get rid of it. And saying that, oh yeah, I know it shows that you're passionate about the game, but the thing about it is you got to realize that, as I said, that it's a business. Like it has to keep money. If it doesn't make money, like it's not going to exist in the future, and you have to take that in consideration with it. And as like we touched on before, like whether like, oh yeah, they've launched Arena, like they've made X amount of money, like it's been that record profit for in years and stuff, like the most, and like but then they've got into design and stuff. They made cards that are just so powerful, like designed for every format, that's just in constructed. So it seems to be like they are trying to push it, like it has creeped in, like the profit has creeped into like design and stuff, but it's thing about it is like it is a game. It is a game at the end of the day that that is it's played by millions of people. Like, and it is like even though because Commander is the casual most constructed. It is the most constructed played format, isn't it? So like trying to like creep into that, but yeah, you've got to understand at the end of the day, like it has to make money in order to survive, and like you can't just throw that out the window and be like, oh, if you're gonna stand on that hill and die on it, you are gonna die on it, because
yeah, it's ultimately self-defeating, isn't it? Because he needs Wizards needs to survive for him to continue I don't know the gender, what they want to do. It's like, oh, I don't care if there's no more boats, I'm a fisherman. It's like, what? Like,
I don't care about the boat industry's profit margin. I might advocate my position as a man that catches fish.
I don't care if boats are profitable. I'm a sailor. What?
Yeah, and I think some of that frustration is, and is totally valid, because it's like they've made a record year, but they've nicked $2.1 million from Pro Play, and we don't know what's coming next. But it's like the key part of what I just said is we don't know what's coming next, right? So I know we don't like to give Wizards the benefit of the doubt, but we didn't know what's coming next, and after that live stream, I'm a lot more optimistic about what's coming next. So, you know, like, I understand the frustration of this company's bragging about their record profits whilst taking money from the thing that I love. But at the same time, you can't make the statement, I don't care about their... I hope Wizards continue to make profits. I just hope they do it in a better way. I hope the profits don't come at the cost of printing an Oko Thief of Crowns, or do you know what I mean? Like, at that point, I think Oko cost them a lot of money. I think they'll be seeing it as, look how many Throneville Drain packs we sold, but it's like, over the long term, how many players have you lost because of that? Like, it, we need to be rational about things, and saying things like that is just horrendous. Like, we're not
The pro
getting
player.
anywhere. It was
Like,
a
as
pro
someone
player.
who's meant to be, like, at the top of the game, it's fucking despicable. Can you imagine if a UFC fighter was out here like, oh, I don't care about the UFC's profits. Yeah, alright, mate, binned. You're
Yeah.
done. Like, you're not fighting in the UFC anymore. Footballers, I don't care about FIFA. I don't care about the World Cup or any of football's profits. Right, you're done. Like, just if you're meant to be a role model in the community, don't act like an idiot and say shit like that. Like, I'm allowed to say dumb shit because I'm not a role model for anyone in the community.
Because you
right?
don't have the platform currently.
You-
Yeah.
Like, no, right? You have to watch what you say. You actually have to like represent Magic as a whole, and you've not done it there, have you? In fact, you've degraded it and yourself. So whoever said that is an idiot.
Yeah, I don't. Like I said, I don't want to name names because obviously they are passionate about it because they do feel like something's been taken from them. So it is coming from an emotional place, but it's like, you're going on a platform and you're saying this, and there wasn't a Wizards representative there to say, whoa, actually, and there probably would never be because it's not good PR. But it's like you've just platformed yourself saying you don't care about you. What you said is, I don't care about this game that I'm a professional player in. Like, we all, at that point for me, I'm like, well, I care about this game a lot. Like, I'm not happy that they're making money hand over fist whilst dismantling organised play potentially and doing. But it's like, at the end of the day, if they didn't print another Magic card from now until the end of time, I'd still play Magic because I like it. I don't need to be paid to play this game. I love this game, and it's like, yeah, you should be able to make a living, and it's not great that they've done X, Y, Z, but that statement there is just horrendous, and it's something that I've sort of seen echoed a bit as well. And I'm just like, let's as a community, let's try to be better than that. Like, we can all be cynical, and we are all cynical here. You saw the worst card design things where we've said which idiot did X, Y, Z. Harry went on a tirade about Cavalier of Flames. Like, we've seen all that before, but ultimately, at the end of the day, right, the reason we're so passionate is that we love the game so much. So it's like, yeah, that I was just when I heard that, I was like, we need to talk about that kind of sentiment because I do hear some of that where it's like when people say Wizards are making record profit and then they sort of like leave it on a cliff edge, like they try to insinuate something. I'm just like, can we not do that? Can we be happy that the game's making profit? And then rather than just saying it's making profit, like, why can't we say, in my opinion, we should allocate more attention to card design, to pro play in these ways? Like, let's have productive rhetoric rather than just shouting at people. Anyway, so I think the best thing to do now is talk about the live stream in particular and some of the things that were said. So the next thing I think we should talk about was sort of a turning point. So Blake Rasmussen, right? I think he was the hero of the hour. I felt really bad for him having to go on a live stream and sort of just been thrown at the wolves. I know it's his job, but whoever wrote that article and was running the Magic Esports Twitter definitely didn't set him up for success. So yeah, he went on and he sort of discussed the future of organised play. Wanted to set some minds at ease that because the MPL members and the community members are controlling the narrative saying pro play's ending, by the way. There's no announcement, so it's ending. It's like, well, hang on a minute, it's not ending. We don't really have any concrete plans, but he sort of gave us like a little glimpse at what that would look like. I don't know if I know Tom's watched it recently. I don't know if Tom's got any like key takeaways from that because I have a couple, but I wonder if.
What's his job title? Do you know what his job
I
title
think he's like
is?
head of public relations.
Right, yeah.
So
He's actually called Mr. PR.
Yeah, his Twitter is at Blake PR. Like, it is his job, but
Yeah.
as someone that's sort of done politics and done public speaking and had to take responsibility for things, he was sort of left like oftentimes he sort of the way he pitches things isn't great, and I have criticised him before in the past for like the Secret Lair stuff, but he did a really good job on that live stream, I think.
Yeah, my main takeaways from it was one thing which he was trying to get across, or at least I've feel he was trying to get across is that if so as we know, organized play basically, this is pre-pandemic, has been dismantled gradually, like Planeswalker points when GPs sort of fell by the wayside and this and that, which was in an attempt to set up the MPL and try this. But if that's now over, rebuilding organized play, this is what it looks like, and that's what a lot of people haven't really caught on to. Again, like you said, with the pros and the people who were in the MPL saying, "Oh, it's all over. There's nothing left." It's not. Potentially not. This is sort of where they have to start from. And then he was sort of trying to get across that different people want different things and they want to cater to more people. So, like, for some people, it's not all about making the Pro Tour, it's not all about making the MPL or cashing out big. For some people, they just want to be like the best in the store, the best in their area. Some people take pride in that. Some people take pride in being what they kept referring to the end boss or the end bosses. So you used to get this at PPTQs.
Yeah.
They were, people that are in inverted commas in your league, but you knew they were going to be in the top 8. I mean, towards the end of PPTQ, I sort of got there, and you met a lot as well, Ryan. Generally, we'd top 8 most of them, but you knew if you were in a certain area because you played there before, you knew who you were going to be facing and you knew who were going to be at the top. Obviously not like concrete, not like, oh, it'll always be us 8 because no one else can touch us, but you were getting on that's some people's aspiration. And the previous model, which was the MPL and the Rivals, didn't cater to that whatsoever. But then there were a lot of people who seemed very, very upset about that, and I've got a pretty strong stance on that. There were people that were like, "Oh, you're aspiring to win your FNM, that's nothing to aspire to. Oh, that's nothing to look forward to. That's not there." And my very scathing remark is, I think those people don't have any friends, because we enjoy playing at that level because it's nice to get the admiration of your peer group because we all sort of get along. But if you don't like any of the people you're playing with, I can sort of understand that it wouldn't matter to you to be at the top of that pile. But I don't know.
Yeah.
There's a lot of vitriol out there, isn't there?
I think RFNM in particular is, if you win RFNM, you're not a bad Magic player, because at least, like, if you play 4 rounds at RFNM, you've played at least 1 or 2 very good Magic players. Like with the end boss thing, I think.
Actually, if you're winning.
Yeah, I think at RFNM, like, when I was at my peak playing Esper Controllers, I was that guy for a long time. Tom was that guy for a long time. Ryan, when it was like Red Black Treasure Map, was that for a long time. Like, Jude was that when it was Siege. Like, Harry was that for a brief while in Mono Red and Experimental Frenzy, where he won 4 or 5 weeks in a row.
Our good friend Marius has been the end boss for a long time.
Yeah, and when I think of Leeds, I know an exact name that comes into my head for someone when it comes to Modern will be playing blue-white control on the end table and he'll be there to beat you no matter what you're playing. Like, that kind of stuff matters. It does, because it's like, you might not be going to the Pro Tour, but personally, I think my goal as a Magic player is at some point to play in a Pro Tour. I don't care about how well I do, but if I can say I've been to a Pro Tour, it's one of those things where it's like, if you were going to put that on a CV or on your LinkedIn, you won't be embarrassed to put it there. You can hang your hat on that. At one point, I was a top 100 player in the world at this game. Like, that is absolutely something you can be proud of. And if that starts at aspiring to win your FNM, if your FNM's naff, right, no one there's good at the game, that's on you, pal. You built a really bad community because you've got a toxic attitude. Like, our community is so good, and it's so welcoming to new players and helps them walk through their mistakes and help them learn, that no one's bad at RFNM, really. Like, no one that's been coming to RFNM for a year or a year and a half is bad at the game.
I think this is a really good point from this guy. If this is what he's trying to say, that like there's different steps to the game and we should be catering for it, that's a great point. Like, some people don't aspire to be the best in the world. Some people don't aspire to be pros at this game. They just want to have fun with it and do relatively well, and that's fine. Like, there is no fucking problem with that at all. But you should also have that nested in the system where the best players go to the top.
Yeah, there should be a through line all the way through. So
yeah,
you can start at that, and there should be steps to go further and further and further.
If you want to build your career over time because you get more invested or whatever, like that should be within the same architecture.
Yeah. Go on. What points did you have from it, Isaac?
I think that was a good takeaway. I think one thing that was in the article, they said the word Command Fest, and they were talking about organised play, and that riled a lot of people up. So the idea that GP is going to be replaced by Command Fest was sort of thrown out as well, and it's like, look, GPs will be more convention-like to get more people there and more foot traffic, but we're still going to do GPs, we're still going to do XYZ. And that's an important point. Like, catering for all level of players includes. So one that came on the back of this was a Twitter thread where Mark Rosewater, there was a discussion about what does the median Magic player look like, how enfranchised are they, and what Mark Rosewater said was the median Magic player has never used social media, has never looked at any deck list online, and plays Commander at the kitchen table. That's the media. We all have to remember that Magic's profits are not off the back of us. We contribute to that massively, right? We're a very enfranchised small section, but Magic is a lot deeper of an iceberg than we know. So Command Fests are important because we can start to move those people from very casual to a bit more enfranchised. And oh look at these cards are worth money. Why are these cards worth money? What are those people doing over there? Like playing with Goldspan Dragons, I don't even know, are a real card. Things like that. Like getting those players in is an important part of it. I think being a store end boss and being enfranchised and learning F&M was brought up. Aspiring play was what he called it, and I think that's where we will all sort of sit for now at the start of the system, because we don't, obviously haven't been enfranchised in the old system, so we're not really in a position to qualify. But the opportunities for things like Star Championship, what he said about Star Championship was really cool, right? So he said the Star Championship just being something that gave out, like Game Day. I loved Game Day, it was sick, right? So Game Day, Harry, I'm not sure if you played during any Game Days, but Game Day was a tournament where every set towards like the middle to end of it, like 70% of the way through, there'd be a tournament on a weekend at every local game store called Game Day. There'd be two of them, one on a Saturday, one on a Sunday, traditionally. Everyone that went there got a full art promo card, like an uncommon non-foil full art promo card. And there'd usually be standard playable cards, so people would want to show up for that. There'd be a cut to top 8, and the top 8 would all win a foil full art card, which would always be something playable. So like, there's a Glory Bringer, there's a Languish, etc. They're like really sick rewards to try and make top 8, and the winner would get a playmat. And it sounds daft, but people engage with that because, right, toxic people would always say, oh, you've got a Game Day champion, Matt, wow, I'm so scared of you. And pro players would say that, and it's like, that's disgusting. That attitude's disgusting, because it's like, it's engaging your community, and it's something where it's like, it's a level above F&M where people take it seriously because there are rewards on the line, and you kind of want to get your Glory Bringer and maybe the player mat if you can.
Yeah.
Like, what?
I'd like
Yeah,
a play mat
there's
for winning
bragging
a,
rights.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, I'd like that if I had a cool play mat.
We used to fight viciously over them. These
Say that again,
playmats.
Ryan. Sorry.
It does say Star Champion on it
Yeah.
as well. So
Well, I want one of those. I
Yeah.
think I could be a star champion.
Good. But the way that he was talking about bringing that back and it meaning more, and that being like the intro to PPTQs and RPTQs, etc., was a really cool concept. So what he was saying, what Blake was saying, was something that they're looking at is how to bring something like Game Day back, because the Star Championship wasn't that engaged with, at least with us, compared to Game Day. And that might make something to do with how it was organised at our specific store, no comment. But
Yeah, obviously there's a lot of variability that's outside of the infrastructure, right?
Yeah, like it being sealed's not a good idea. But anyway, I think, what he said was, so as a Star Championship should be something prestigious, right? So it happens once every standard set, and the winner wins a cool prize. Like he even said the word etched foil or cool like prize reward card rather than it being just a playmat. I think the playmat will probably be there anyway because it costs them bugger all to make, and it's something cool that you carry with you. But if there was like a trophy card that was worth a lot of money, or not even worth a lot of money, but it was so rare and collectible, like if it, personally, I would like it to be
Leaves, man.
something. Yeah, I like it to be something that represents that standard format. So it could be something naff, but like if you won this one, you'd win a cool, awesome promo emergent ultimatum that isn't worth a lot of money, but is something that you would keep with you. That'd be really cool. But what he was saying was that could translate into Star Champions playing other Star Champions in the region to get a regional champion, and that sort of stuff is a lot cooler because it's tangible for a new player. Like when a new player walks in and there's some guy with a world championship belt over his shoulder, which they should do, by the way, that's a free idea for you. They'll be like, I want to beat that guy. Do you know what I mean? Like that'd be really cool. Like to have a regional champion or a Star champion and have your representative, and because if they did coverage in the UK of the Star Championship and like Tom went because he were our Star Champion and he were on the feature match, we'd all be in the LGS watching that. Like we'd all be huddled around the monitor when we can. We'd be all like, "What? Like, come on, Tom, batter this guy!" Like we'd all be behind him, and that's a really cool idea.
Bombs.
And if that translates to Pro Tour qualification, or maybe not even that, but like some kind of extra thing, I'm all for it. Let's have that, please. Anyone got any thoughts on that? I know I rambled for a bit there.
It'd be good. It'd be really good. It sounded ideal, and I think it's a lot of. I sort of conveyed this sentiment to you in a message before, did I? There's a lot of people that heard that concept of like, well, some people want to win the store championship or like that, or want to be good at their FNM, and they sort of look down at them like disgusting bug people, like, ugh, that's not something to aspire to. You've be doing this, you've got to be doing that. And I think there's a lot of people who think that a store championship or an FNM is beneath them, who aren't pros themselves, who are probably taking themselves a little bit too seriously. But
FNM's good practice, really. Like it,
Some people are.
for me personally, like I think when we go back to FNM, it'll be a bit of a shock because I feel like I'm gonna miss a load of triggers and stuff because Arena does a lot of the hard work for you.
And also,
Like-
interact with people as well. Be like, ooh.
Well, yeah, that's obviously difficult, but like that was difficult anyway, Ryan. Like fucking, people are hard work. But so like that is one of the things as well, though. Like generally, Magic players and socializing is a weird intersection, and there's not a huge overlap. So I think they have to be very calculated in what events they want to set up, because certain people aren't going to go to certain things unless the reward is significant enough. And I'm one of those people. Like, unless there's something decent on the line, I'm probably not going to go to like I'll go to FNM because I like playing with you guys. Not because I'm like, I don't think I can win an FNM, so I'm trying to challenge myself. Like, there's obviously levels to it, depending on where you are. And it matters how they set up the architecture and the infrastructure so that, like, you can progress through that. And hopefully, like, there's actually a pathway to becoming the best in whatever. In the world? No, not in whatever. In the world, like, that pathway should be from your LGS all the way to the best in the world. That there should be a clear shot.
And everyone that gets to that end point should have had to have gone through that. Like, everyone should go through the exact same process. So what I'm saying about these people that look down their nose at their FNMs, and we've had people do it at our FNM where they've come and gone, this will be easy, I'll beat all these people because it's Bradford. Bradford's not got a big Magic scene. Our FNM now is like a murderer's row because we've sort of cultivated people to be good at Magic. Like, we've brought people in and we've been like, look, this is how you play Magic, this is how the matchups go, this is how I would play this instead of what you're doing. Like, and we've even taken their feedback on board as well. So when I get beaten by someone who's been coming 3 months and have outplayed me, I'm like, good job, I'm not even angry. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, I want that to happen. I want more new people to come in and batter me and outplay me, and I feel like an idiot. Like, I want more of those people to come in because it makes our scene better. And if your FNM's not prestigious, that's on you. You've not built a good community there. I feel like we've done a really good job. Let's keep doing it. Let's support, like, the promos that have been given out for buying sealed products at your LGS now. Regardless of how you feel about the pandemic and whether or not we should or shouldn't be returning to organised play, let's have stuff like that. Like, it starts from this bottom level. Let's get more people in buying sealed products and seeing, oh, what are those two guys playing? Oh, they're playing, probably not Pioneer, but they're playing something else. They're playing Standard, or they're playing Cube, or what's Standard, what's Cube, do you know what I mean? Like, let's get people more inculcated into it, because communities like ours can carry people from casual to mythic level arena players. Like when Harry first came, we sort of would play with Harry. We'd be like, oh, Harry, you're pretty good at this. This is how I would play instead of this, that, and the other. Harry got more and more engaged. That's the kind of person he is. And now he's at the point where he's playing against Reed Duke every other month. You know what I mean? Like, if communities are built like ours all around the country and all around the world, this will be phenomenal for the game. And I hope they do start relying on this.
I've said this before, like, my FNM group has taught me so much, because I came in pretty fresh, and like, yeah, I'm a good decision maker and critical thinker, but Magic itself, like, you have to learn it, and it's a thing that you build up over time, and it's a team game as well. Like, when you're playing, it's 1v1 generally, but it's a team game. You can learn from everyone around you, regardless of their skill level. It's like what they say in chess. Regardless of someone's ELO, you can learn from them.
Yeah.
And like I think this is largely attitude based. Some people just suck, right? They're just not good people to be around. They're toxic. They think of things like in staggered levels of elitism and blah blah blah. That's on them, right? If there's people around you like that that are saying, "Oh, don't go play that event because it's not worth your time" or whatever, don't listen to them. Just do what you want to do with Magic. Like it should be a good sort of experience for you, and that ultimately, like, that's why I don't go to all the events, because I wouldn't enjoy it, and that'd take away from my love of Magic. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I totally get that. I think you know, I think in general we've done a good job of covering that sort of general topic. Like what they sort of said, I have some direct quotes to sort of summarize like their feelings on it. So what be a second? So what the feeling that they said, one of the words they said was rebalancing, right? So they felt like they were spending 90% of the money for competitive play on the MPL, on challenge, on rivals, and going through that process. And it's like, if that money's redistributed towards all levels of play, let's make GPs and these regional pro tours or whatever they were doing before, and LGS play, let's subsidise that. Let's get better promos for that. We'll all be happier with that, because we ultimately, you're taking money that benefits a lot, like a few people a lot, and making that money benefit a lot of people a little. You know, it's like a very utilitarian approach, but at least the way I think, maybe I'm too utilitarian, but I'm like, oh, if it benefits more people, it's a great amount of happiness generated. So let's do that. Let's still support this top level play, but if we're spending 90% of the money on 30, 32, 64 players, what are we doing? So yeah,
There
I
have
like,
to be
I like
like paraphernalia prizes as well. Can it not be monetary? Like this, I think one of the issues that Magic runs into sometimes is that like the prizes are all already invested in Magic. If you allowed me to come to a tournament that I pay in and there's a possible profit, like I'd be much more inclined than to like hope that the prize that I get is worth a certain amount of money on a secondary market and then make the money that way. Like it's an extra step that doesn't need to be there, in my opinion.
I mean, you used to get it a bit. GPs, main event GPs, there was no in-product prizes. It was always cash prizes. You had to do well enough to get them. But all the other side events, you'd win tickets to get prizes at GPs. But main events, you'd win cash or you'd win nothing. And then
Really?
generally, PPTQ's first place in a lot of places was cash prize. I think I'm right in saying that, Ryan?
I don't think it was cash. It was like plane ticket. Wherever the Pro Tour is, your plane ticket and airfares paid
Oh, no,
for.
sorry, PPTQs. So obviously your top
okay,
prize was PTQ qualification. But a lot of ones we went to locally, you win £100 for winning. You didn't usually, because generally when you got to the finals, you'd split the prize and take 50 quid each and half a box each or whatever.
Yeah, so usually like first place would be cash and then second place would be a box.
Yeah.
See, like I don't really mind which way it's set up, but finances are a big part of this game. Like when you start getting into it further, and like it is a limiting factor. So if they can sort of address that, that'd be good. I think.
And I think the old system did do that. Like PTQ's playing for your flights to wherever in the world and your hotel for wherever in the world to go play the Pro Tour. Like, imagine qualifying for a Pro Tour in Hawaii and now you're on the hook for 1,500 quid worth of flights and hotels. Like, you've not won anything there. You've won a liability. Like that kind of stuff, if that's implemented, would be really good. And I think we will see a return to some of that. Maybe not Hawaii. I think it'd be more regional than that now. But that's fine. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Lord.
that is good. And I think so what I wanted to sort of move over to was talking about if the new plans are a bit shit, what will happen? Like, and I think this is what ground my gears, right? No end. There's all these American players, a lot generalised, but a lot of American players were complaining about organised plays over, and it's like you've got Star City, Channel Fireball, Cascade Games, 27 million. Because before, I don't know if like I'm old, so I remember GPs that weren't all run by Channel Fireball, right? Like Channel Fireball isn't the only person that can run a GP. Like the Star City have run a UK-based GP before, and I think that's what we'll go back to. They won't just give a contract to one supplier. They'll let lots of people subcontract the Magic brand to create a cash tournament system.
Yeah, we went to one that was run by a company that mainly did Scrabble tournaments at one point, I think, didn't we?
Yeah. Yeah,
but they just thought they'd give it a go because they have the staff basically.
and that kind of stuff is what we're going to go back to, and I'm happy to embrace that. But if organised play stopped from Wizards directly in America, they'd be fine. What I'm worried about is our community. So, like, there are big companies up north, like Patriot and like IQ and stuff like that. But we need some kind of level of collaboration to create our own tournament circuit that would have cash prizes because there was a reluctancy for that, and that's why I'm a bit like, do we kind of need Summit up here because Axion down south will be able to run stuff, but for us UK lot up north especially, we have a good community, we have very solid players. What will we do? So I just sort of want some general feelings and opinions on that from. Oh, we'll go Ryan first because I think Ryan's obviously in the community a lot. Like, what do you see happening with regards to like secondary tournament organisers?
As you said, like obviously for us here, like it mainly like the biggest one is Axiom, but as you said, it obviously it's down south, isn't it? Which can be a bit off-putting to some people. Like, but again, I can see like from people like up north and stuff, and like around the country, like traveling to it because it is like the big venue, and obviously they did host the nationals twice, didn't they? So
And they did a
since
good job.
there is,
They did a really good
yeah,
job.
yeah, no, I can't, yeah, no, I can't fault them for that, and yeah. Um, and like we did actually meet the owner of Axin at the second one that did, and he was a really nice bloke.
Is that
And
Francois?
Francois, yeah.
Big up
So yeah,
Francois.
can't fault him at all. Yeah, he's very lovely. He is French, yeah. In case if that if that didn't get across, but no. But as for like the north and stuff, like north of England, obviously I know that obviously we can talk about Northern Ireland, Wales, and Scotland, but like I can't think of anything that spring to mind obviously for those. But like for the north of England, as you said, obviously there's Patriot obviously, which has a couple of stores obviously dotted around, aren't they? Like is it Leeds, Sheffield, and is it Manchester?
I think
Manchester,
I was thinking Manchester, but I'm not. I
might
think
might
it's
be entirely
Manchester.
wrong, but
Yeah.
but they've got some places obviously dotted around the north, haven't they? And then obviously then they've IQ obviously here in Huddersfield and stuff. But again, which has a reputation throughout the country anyway. Um, but they have put on like bigger tournaments because I know IQ like have hired out one of the local hotels and stuff to run it. So there is that capacity for it. But I would be optimistic like if they kind of did dismantle it because we know that they can do it. So it would be a shame. It would be a shame. But I think going into it, like I think if they did or they didn't, like I'd be optimistic either way. So yeah. So my outlook on it is good. So yeah.
Good stuff. Tom.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's kind of make or break. The worst thing you could do is anything in the middle ground, as far as I'm concerned. So if it comes out, it's really well supported, it's really good. They've put a lot of the infrastructure and sort of the skeleton in place for these events, and it's all great. Or if they don't do that, they need to do nothing to leave a big enough void for someone to just come in and do it, because it is a big commitment for like a company, and it is hard to like get the return on it. The worst thing they could do would be something sort of wishy-washy, middling, which would sort of leave game stores and other companies tied to being involved with them, and then sort of there not being enough. So that's what I'd like to see: either full support, super fantastic, or nothing, and leave it as a blank slate for someone else to decide how it's all going to function.
Yeah, because if they put constraints on it, yeah, then it ties
Yeah.
their hand,
And
doesn't it? So.
I found out this week that there are constraints in it. So apparently in America, Star City could never charge more than $25 entry fees. Don't know if you guys know
No,
that. It's like a Wizards.
no.
Apparently, I'm not sure how true this is, but I heard some people say it. So take that with a grain of salt. But there are very stringent Wizards restrictions because obviously they're using their IP. I heard things like not more than $25 entry fee, event caps for the amount of players you can have in a tournament, things like that. If they're not gonna have Wizards sanctioned events, they need to bin all that off. That all needs to go out the window because like Harry said, right? There needs to be cash prizes, so we can't have $25 entry fees because the prize pool will be terrible. So we'll sort of see how it manifests itself, but I'm totally with that. Harry, maybe you got any thoughts at all?
I I don't know, man. Like I try not to be super skeptical about this kind of stuff, but every franchise that I've been into seems everything just seems to be run poorly in this area, and I don't. believe that. I don't think, regardless of what comes out, it's going to be run well. And I don't want to be that guy, but that's how I feel about it right now. Like, I just feel like nobody. I don't think there'll be anybody that'd step up to the plate either if it was left open. I don't see anyone coming and doing an adequate job, at least. So I'm a bit skeptical because it's obviously I want a competitive environment in the north. Like, I'm a born and bred Yorkshireman. I want the competitive scene to be here. I don't want to have to go elsewhere. And also what you were talking about, like building up the community, that matters. But I don't see it going well here, unfortunately.
I think if it was to pop off, which I do hope, regardless of it, if the support's really good, I would love it if like RLGS or Patriot or IQ, these stores are all run really well, right? If they would take that risk, I know I'm asking a lot for these business owners, and I'm not advocating for it, but if they were, I would love to see the community get behind it. So I just sort of like, if someone said we're going to do a 5k or whatever, where the first prize is $5,000, right? I would love to see everyone get involved in that and support that, and let's show up to Cedar Court or wherever we end up throwing it, like, and let's show that support, because ultimately, if Wizards are a massive conglomerate, right? So it'll take lots of people to be involved. So if whatever the guy that runs RLGS goes, right, we're doing this, I'm going to do a bigger tournament, we're going to book out this, let's book out that. I'll be like, right, I'll run video coverage then, or I'll do commentary, or I'll find someone to help. Like, we're all going to need to pitch in, and I think if the community comes together, I'm a little bit more optimistic than you. I don't think no single party could do it, but if there was sort of a meeting of the minds between like all of these big stores around the country, we could absolutely make something happen. I think it's just about that collaboration and seeing if we could actually make it come together. Yeah, I think what we'll do before we go, I sort of want everyone to sort of give something. Let's end on a positive note. So obviously we've been through all the MPL stuff. Of all the sort of changes and things that we've implemented, like sort of what's the first thing that comes to your mind that you want to see moving forward, and sort of if you could go into some detail about how you want it to manifest itself. I know Harry said about cash prizes. Like, how would you like to see Organised play support something like that?
Well, I mean, to do it effectively, Wizards just need to take, and the LGSs just need to take less of a cut, which is going to be difficult. But other than the cash prizes, because like I don't want to look at the economics strictly of that, because it's quite hard to do just off the bat and blanket the whole country. This is a fresh start, right? We can look at this as a clean slate, and Wizards or other parties, depending on how they deploy this, can set it up in a way that we've been talking about, in that it's really positive for everybody involved, and it's not got all these bullshit caveats and like you have to do this to get here, and like you're doing fucking spaghetti junction to get to your pro tour, and it's just like, what the fuck are you doing? Just make it clear, make it concise, and make it fun. There's three things that you need to do, and it'll go really well, I think. Because people want to play, and people want to play competitively, and they will give you the money. So I think this is a good fresh start, and like I'm optimistic.
Yeah, I think just sort of to add off the back of that, if they go back to PTQs, we're there. Do you know what I mean? That one to me is a very easy one to do. I know PTQs right now, the idea of 150 people in a room, you know, bit alarming, and rightly so. But I think if we ever get to a point where that's viable, let's go back to that, and we've already achieved that. We've already achieved the fun, the clear, if you win this, you're in the Pro Tour kind of situation. I think that's a good, easy home run for him. What about you, Tom, mate? What's the one thing?
Yeah. Sort of mirroring that. It's obviously they've effectively dismantled organised play, and then they thought the MPL will do it. This will bring loads of money and this and that hasn't worked. If they're rebuilding organised play, this is what it looks like, and that's kind of what they've alluded at. So as long as we trust them to do that going forward, it should be good. Yeah, this is where they have to build back up from. So it's not as doom and gloom as people make out. Like, it's not over. It's just beginning, really. Hopefully.
Ryan, mate, you got any, like, what's the one thing you think, like, yes, what they've said, this is the thing that they should focus on?
Yeah, I think like also I think like my sentiment is like what we've touched on. Like if they go back, they just get tournaments back like PTQs or whatever form that they take and stuff. But I think obviously with the Rona, obviously it's for current time, obviously it might be a little while to get back to that. So in the meantime, I think just trying to invest in LGSs a little bit, like give them a little bit more support, obviously to them to build up the community again. Because obviously it's hard hit anyway, and like it's gonna take a little while to get back to the levels that it was before, before the Rona. So I think it's like as you said, like maybe offering like different promos and stuff, maybe like bring back store championships just for like a little bit, just to try and generate that interest and stuff, and just so that it's built up. But overall, like I am confident about it because, as like Harry said, it's a clean slate. I think Wizards know where hopefully they've learned from it. They've learned from this experiment and stuff, and it's kind of like, oh, maybe like the old system was a bit better in some ways of this new one. They know that it's trying to like engage with the players at the core base and like build it up and stuff. So it's like not to leave them in the lurch kind of thing. So bringing back tournaments and stuff to give that opportunity and build and get that interest sparked again will be the thing to do. So that's why. But again, I'm optimistic with them. I think they are going to do a good thing, and now like the Wizards are being upfront about it, like they're being honest. So, and that's kind of like a good thing, really, because in sometimes like Wizards just been like in the background, like thinking like what they're going to do, and then all of a sudden they come out and like with it. It's like what the fuck, like there were no like build up to this, like what the hell, they've all of a sudden just done it. So, which I think is like one of the main critiques of it before, wasn't it? Where Wizards just weren't open and front about it, whereas now they're trying to be. So that they are trying to be. So I think that's probably like a good thing. So, which is always nice to know, because if you're trying to be up in front, like if you're up and honest with people, even if it's like a bad thing, at least people like, yeah, they're going to take it back, but they're going to be at least appreciate that you actually have said it to them. So, but yeah, but overall, as I said, like I'm optimistic with it. So yeah, I think it's going to be good.
Yeah, I hope so too. I think for me, the one thing that sort of stuck out to me was when Blake was sort of trying to get everyone back on board. The thing that he reached to was the LGS Star Championship, regional stars having competition amongst each other. I think things like giving those all-boarded Fabled Passage promos for £50 or more purchase at sealed events, things like that home run. Like ultimately, like Ryan said, right now is a time because we can't have big events, but we are starting to get back in LGSs very, very soon. Let's support those LGSs. Let's give them the cash flow. Let's make sure that they can sell our product, because there's not a lot of margin in this game anymore. Let's give incentives to get product out. Do you know what I mean? Let's build up these LGSs so that if we do want to move to a more competitive environment, they can run their own stuff. I think enabling LGSs to be, subcontractors of you rather than just being distributors of your product. Like, they can be useful partners rather than just a money printing machine. Like, Secret Lairs will print you money, but LGSs will build you enfranchised player bases that'll buy cards for 10 or 20 years. Like, if they invest more in that with the Star Championship things, give really good rewards for that, give incentive to do the regional Star Championship stuff, make that worthwhile. However that manifests itself, I think the fact that it was brought up in the first place is very good, because we don't often see behind the curtain. So if they're going to let us in, it's going to be something that they're more likely to implement. So I hope they do take that forward, and I hope that it manifests itself in a really positive way, so that for the foreseeable future, like whatever the 3, 6, 12 months it takes, so that we can get back into 100-person events, let's build up LGSs. Let's have some play. Let's like get the people that is a big one as well. Get the people that have played arena only events into their LGSs. Like, Paul's found several people around this area that's never been to FNM before who buy a load of product from him over the last 12 months. They've got no reason to, because they're not playing in the game. Let's get those people in. Let's get them good at Magic. Let's get them to tournaments. Let's get them beating people. Like, that for me is paramount importance. Like Ryan said, let's get some money to LGSs. Let's get some support to LGSs, and then no matter what happens next, we've got really viable business partners here. But yeah, I think, to be honest, overall, I'm fairly positive. I think, like Harry said, there are limitations to how things are run, especially in England compared to America, because it's a smaller country, it's a smaller community. But ultimately, I am very optimistic.
I just want to add another thing on, like, this is from Wizards' side to, like, the players. We need what we need is a roadmap, like a competitive roadmap. Don't make it difficult for me to understand when the tournaments are, where they are. Like, if you're a new player and you don't know what's going on, and you've got to ask at your LGS at FNM, like, where's the next tournament? Where can I play it? Like, I've asked you guys multiple times because there's no good information out there. All we have to do when they set this up is create a competitive roadmap and just put it on the website and make it visible.
Yeah, it shouldn't be a spreadsheet in a UK-based Facebook group made by some guy called Gaz, who's gone to every LGS's website to compile it. Do you know what I mean? Because how many dodgy spreadsheets we had to download from Facebook groups to see where the PPTQs are and plan time off of work to go to Sheffield or go to wherever. Like, it's horrendous. Like, Wizard Store Locator, I don't know if you've been in it recently. It's horrendous now. It's terrible. It don't really work. Like, Wizard Store Locator should be on the advertisement card of every single, like, it should be on the front page of Arena. Click here to see where your local game store is as soon as it's safe to do so, and it should be in every advertisement card. Like, the LGS is the lifeblood of this game. Like, let's treat it that way and let's be really transparent. Like, if we've got PTQs run by LGS, Harry's right. It should be click here to find the list of PTQs in your country and where they are and where they're being held. Click on a link. Oh, here's the list of events. Click on that link. Here's the event page of all the information I need. You're 2 clicks away. Rather than,
And what will that get me to?
yeah, and
Not
knowing,
not just like this event's on here. It's what are the rewards? What happens next? It's not just about, like, knowing that event. It's about everything that, like, it's not difficult to give this information out. Like, it might be harder than I'm giving credit for. Like, it's obviously it's a big undertaking. However, this company is massive. Let's just put the information out there and let the like players figure out where they're actually meant to be and at what times.
yeah, and like there should be a graphic. Like, here's one route to qualification through a PTQ. You go Store Championship, PT, blah blah blah. Here's what everything means. Here's the GP route. It goes GP. You make this amount in the GP. You go hit, like, you know, like, I know what Harry's saying. It might be harder than I'm thinking, but that graphic takes 30 minutes to make. If you want to do a really bad rendition of it, I could make that on Microsoft Paint in about 2 minutes. Like, I totally agree with that. Like, it should be transparent.
The steps.
Yeah.
Like, the steps have to be transparent. Ryan, go on. I feel like you've got something you want to say on this.
No. The thing when you touched on about the PPTQ and all that, it did exist on the Wizards website when they were running. Like, and like I know you said, like, I know you'd ask us, but the reason why you'd ask us is because I'd know, because I'd usually be the one posting up the dates and stuff. Because we'd have our own Facebook group, so, and I'd like list out, like, each, like, at the beginning of the week, like for the weekend coming up, like, you know, these would be the ones in, like, our local area and stuff. Like, do you want to go to any of them? So there was that, and it did say that, you know, this qualified you to the PTQ, and then that would qualify, you know, for this particular Pro Tour. My only critique with that was that because it was an American dates, obviously you had to watch out, because obviously, you know, the month was the first.
The dates were backwards.
Yeah, the dates were backwards, but obviously that's, you know, that's America, you know. It's,
all you were getting out of the right was that you should, although as useful as it was, you shouldn't have to set up your own Facebook group and, like, shepherd that for a play group. But you should.
I appreciate your contribution massively, Ryan, but the fact of the matter is there shouldn't be one of you at every LGS.
That will more to do with transport arrangements and things as well, I suppose. But yes, I see what you mean.
Why you were trying to organise, but the information was there. Like, it did take, well, I can't remember now because obviously it's been so long ago, but it wasn't too hard to get to it. But again, it wasn't like up front, like it wasn't.
Yeah, it shouldn't even be a thing. Like, if you have to invest more than 30 seconds of your time to find out where, like, what's going on, then something's wrong.
Yeah.
It should be a feature on the companion app, like find the nearest event, like,
or a map.
Well, obviously that's why, yeah. It's because obviously this is the thing. Obviously they've got the potential now, and again they've got to utilize the tools that they have now. Obviously they've got the companion app, but the main thing is Arena. Like, they've got to use that to basically. I don't care if people get sick of it, but they got to advertise it and just ram it down people's throat.
Yeah.
Even as I said, if people get sick of it, you know that people know about it because not this again. It's like
You can
right,
stop
the message,
then.
the message has got through. Like
Yeah.
let's ram it down even more. Like
I agree with you, man. Like the yeah.
it's free. It's free advertising. Now, what business doesn't love that? Like
Yeah.
it's the best tool that
Part
they've got.
of it is as well, what Harry were getting at is that they didn't keep it for, well, whilst he were interacting it and whilst we were a bit, they didn't keep it fixed at any point. It was sort of always in flux, wasn't it? Like me and you had a long run of it's PPTQ to PTQ to Pro Tour, but then it all started changing, and it's like, oh no, it's modern Super Series now. Straight to PTQs are a thing again, and then there's this, and then this was changed, and then GPs
European modern series,
that
which is
lost,
I remember speaking to you guys about the like competitive format and trying to ask you like how do I progress, and like if I didn't understand that you guys had been confused by Wizards, I would have thought you were all morons and didn't know what you were talking about because there was just no clarity, and that wasn't your fault. Like, it was their fault. But, you know, fresh start, boys.
I just had
start.
I'm very optimistic. Before we close, right, I just thought came in my head, right? Bring back Nationals, yeah? It's the most simple thing you can do, right? Nationals, you've got a certain amount of whatever you have to win. Maybe here's your idea. You can write this one down, right? You have to win a store championship to qualify for Nationals. Maybe make it a smaller thing if you want to make it a smaller thing, or not. Or just make it some kind of thing. You've got to go to your LGS this many times. You go to Nationals. By the way, I've never been to a Nationals. I couldn't ever get the time off. But just for Harry's benefit, right? Nationals was like exactly what it sounds like. It was one event in the country. It was normally somewhere centrally located, like Wolverhampton, or okay, maybe not. But basically everyone from around the country that had enough Planeswalker points, so if they played about 20 FNMs or 1 GP or whatever, they'd have to be
I don't think was it 200? How many did you need? Do you remember?
Not
Ryan?
a lot.
It might have been 300 or something.
He won a lot.
I didn't know.
Me and Ryan, who were hard PPTQ grinders, generally had like 20 times as many points.
Yeah,
to
but you
qualify,
had there was like a small barrier to entry, and it would be constructed and draft, and the winner went to Worlds to be the captain of the national team.
Okay, how many people were on the national team?
3.
And did they come from the Nationals?
Yes. So no,
Alright.
one would come from the Nationals, I believe, and the other 2 were the top ranking pro players in pro points from that region. So it was a little bit convoluted, but in terms
with some tweaks, that sounds great.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. Like,
remove the barrier to entry, let everybody come in.
Yeah.
Like, first of all.
Well, obviously it's going to be different now because obviously there's no Planeswalker points now. So.
Yeah, but like, let's just let everybody play. It should be a, you know, you come and play regardless of your in-game currency that they've fucking made. Like,
it was technically non-existent. Like,
okay, but
if you played your FNM every week, if you play your FNM every other week, you had enough points to qualify for Nationals. So,
I get what you're
my
saying.
friend from 6 months ago hasn't played and hasn't got any points, then he can't play or they can't play.
And I think
which is a problem.
There are ways around that, but ultimately what I'm saying is, in terms of progression, that model was loved by everyone in the UK. Everyone said if you could go to one tournament a year, chalk all the GPs, go to Nationals, everyone would always say that because it was really good value prospect. The company that ran Nationals was Axion, right? They subcontracted that and ran that really well. They did well out of it because all the prizes were provided by Wizards. Like, it was an all-round net good. And it was really obvious how you got there. So to get 2 Nationals, you had to just play some Magic. And then once you're at Nationals, if you win Nationals, you go to the World Magic Cup. You got Worlds. Amazing. Like, really good format.
I think that's great. One of the things that I would advocate for is a bigger team. So maybe 5.
I mean, the worlds you qualify for were just like a one-off sort of like exhibition tournament, really, weren't they? It was just like, oh, we're gonna get a few people from every country and work out which country's the best. Like, it wasn't like pro tours and big things. It was just.
It should have more weight than that, though, right? Like, if we're taking the best from every country and pitting them against each other, like it's literally the World Cup of Magic. Should be the most prestigious trophy in the game.
Yeah, and it was never, the weakness of that though was it was never tied to a set release or anything like that, so it wasn't a big marketing push. When it's like, if you did that, imagine, right, what the draft format for that is a draft. It's the next set that no one's had any spoilers for, and they've just got to learn it when they open the booster. Like that would be so sick, and it's something that everyone would watch the World Magic Cup because Team Magic's really intriguing because there's multiple matches that all matter. Like, you know, it's just an idea that's very slam dunk, and it's like you've got that there for free, so let's have it. Like,
Yeah, I mean, it works in all the other sports. So there's so much precedent, right? So there's one way that you can go, which is like franchising and separating the regions in like NA, EU, Australasia, etc. Like you can split it up and like have China, and you know, you can go down the franchise route, which is a good route and it's a good model. But it requires quite a lot of input from big businesses, which I don't currently think that Magic has the kind of pull for. Whereas the world's idea, like the world championship thing, it just happens like naturally. You can just sort of build it from the game stores upwards. So
I said a brainwave, right? We'll leave it on this, but here's another good idea, right? If there were 6 team slots, I think it has to be 3s because it has to be 2 3s for the team stuff to work. But if it's like the two captains and the 2 top ranking pro points players, whatever, they have the best finishes in pro matchups, two slots can go to arena players that qualify from their region in some kind of arena tournament, and then 2 can come from the Star Championship stuff. You've got like 3 like levels there. You've got 2 people that have come from the pro scene, 2 people that have played online, and 2 people that have played at their LGSs and done whatever they've done in paper to get there. Like, that would be very transparent. That'd be very beneficial. Do you know what I mean? I would love to compete in that because you can sit next to someone like, I don't know, a British pro player, insert British pro player here, next to you, and learn a lot from them and be mentored by them as well. That'd be a really sick experience. I think they should definitely bring that back. Anyone got any final closing thoughts other than that we're all optimistic?
No, nothing. No, I think I think that's it really. I think we kind of had like the closing thoughts before, didn't we? But this is like...
I think just in general, like the future of Magic right now is pretty open, and people should be happy about that rather than annoyed by it, because let's be honest, the history's not been great. We can do a lot better. So everybody should be happy about this. I don't understand why this has caused an uproar, to be honest, other than a load of guys getting paid 100k, like
being a bit entitled.
It's steadily gone up at how much they get paid. Yeah, so I sort of mirror that. Like, if you're currently kicking off, just wait and see what is actually going to happen going forward. Chances are, if you're really determined to kick off, you won't be disappointed. There will be something to kick off about, but at least leave it for now.
Yeah, this is. I think everyone's got their own little point out there, and a lot of people have a knee-jerk reaction to it, and like, and it's change, isn't it? And a lot of people don't like change, and especially like for people that are part of the change. But like again, it's as we said, like just wait until like until it's fully come out what's happening and stuff, because as you said, Tom, there will be something to complain about. So if you want to put your 2 pennyworth in, you will have your chance to get your 2 pennyworth in. Don't worry.
Yeah, I think that's a really good place to end it. Like, ultimately, we don't know what's coming next. Let's wait and see what comes next. But in general, let's try and be positive, because I think the community as a whole, we kind of showed ourselves up a bit. We had mainstream people seeing that bleed over into mainstream Twitter and commenting on that, being like, "Oh, all these Magic players are unemployed. Let me put my..." And it's like, that's not a good look. Like, we don't actually know anything yet, so let's sort of save the outrage for when it's needed. Because if they announce a system and it's terrible, we'll have another 2-hour episode where we come and slate it. I promise you that'll be coming. But let's at least wait and see, because if it's good, we could all be happy. And that's what we want.
I mean, Modern Horizons 2 comes out in a couple of months. There's plenty of time for complaining. There'll be plenty of problems to talk about.
Yeah, it said there's going to be loads of legendaries and that, so yeah, fun times.
And on that note, I think that's a good place to end it. Thanks a lot, guys. Like Tom said, Modern Horizons is coming out soon, so we should have some kind of coverage on that probably, because that'll be an interesting one. But all in all, yeah, I think we're all looking forward to the next announcement. We're hoping it comes soon so that we have some clarity. And I think most of all, we're looking forward to, like the article said, we want to get back to the gathering, because that's what the game's all about. So, I want to encourage, if anyone's out there and they're listening and they're not beating an LGS, do it. It's worth it. I don't want to sound wet, but it is life changing. Like, it's something that
this won't be happening otherwise.
Exactly. So you should definitely do that. and whatever comes next, make sure you support it and get behind it, unless it is naff. But if it's all positive, right, as a community, we should all band around it and all get behind it and support our LGSs in carrying forward whatever they want to do. But yeah, thanks a lot for listening, and until next time, we'll see you later.